A Sicilian-style meatball. So the oven is preheating, 425, 450. I roast them pretty high, but the rack should be at the center of the oven so they don't get too brown on the outside before they cook fully through. The sweetness comes from little currants I'm soaking, or you can use small golden raisins. I have just a handful of them in a little hot water just to plump them up a bit and get them going. In the bowl, I'm using a combination of beef and pork. I have 1.5 pounds of beef and I have 1 pound of pork. This is homemade breadcrumbs, just from stale bread I toasted in the oven. I toasted it up so that it would develop a little bit of flavor before I added it to the dish. And then I doused it with about 3/4 cups of milk. I started with 2.5 cups of cubed bread. Then I ground it into coarse crumbs. And then I added 3/4 cup of milk. And I'm just loosening it up again. It's nice and moist, but I do not need to drain off excess liquid, definitely. But they're nice and moist, and that's the point. So we're gonna add our breadcrumbs. And then we're gonna season the meat with a little salt and pepper, the meat and crumbs with salt and pepper. Then we're going to add a full packed cup of pecorino cheese. We're going to crack 2 eggs and add them, and I do that in a separate dish so that if some shell drops out, we can go grab it. Okay, here's our spice blend. 1 tablespoon each of the garlic and onion, 2 tablespoons of the parsley, 2 teaspoons each of the oregano and the red pepper, and fennel. So we're gonna sprinkle all of that into the mix. And then I have about 1/2 cup of lightly toasted pine nut and roughly 3 tablespoons of good EVOO. Drain off our currants. Just wanted to soften them up a little bit. And then get in there. When this mixture is combined, we score it. And then we know, hey, I want to get at least 12 meatballs out of this thing. So I just start spinning it like a pie. And then we know when we grab the meat, we're getting relatively the same amount each time. Nice kind of baseball size shape is what we're going for. So here's the dozen meatballs rolled. That's 2.5 pounds of meat and 2.5 cups of cubed bread that we turned into our homemade breadcrumbs. Going into the oven. Coat the bottom of the pan as I have here with EVOO, enough to fully coat the bottom. It's about 4 tablespoons, I'd say. Oh, he's too high. My stove is insane. It's possessed. No biggie. Immediately, I'm gonna swirl and add our beef stock, beef or chicken stock here. It looks a little gelatinous because this is bone stock. It has 0 fat, but it has lots of natural gelatin. It's absolutely delicious. And we're going to sprinkle in some red pepper. I have 1.5 pounds, a combination of flat kale, Italian kale, and the last of our Swiss chard. So we're going to start wilting this into the pan in bundles here. As it wilts down, we'll add some more. And it'll steep in the broth for about 20-25 minutes while the meatballs are roasting. Incidentally, that's how long the meatballs should take, 20 to 25 minutes. Season with a little salt. And always, always with dark greens, nutmeg. We are ready. So let's take some lemon juice, finish our greens. So we slide them into our serving dish to make that nest I was talking about for the giant meatballs. Look at those babies. Actually, we can't call them babies. They gotta be big boys. And then I just kind of work the greens around to nest each one in there. I think we're there, people. Let's bring it on down. Yeah.